Laika Age Through Blood is a Metroidvania with post-apocalyptic Western themes from Spanish studio Brainwash Gang. Tasked with protecting her village, Laika harbors a fractured relationship with her mother and a desire to shelter her daughter through a tale of blood-soaked revenge. Combat and traversal both feel great. Groups of enemies and platforming arenas feel like puzzles to be solved. This remains constant throughout late game as enemies become more varied and enemy difficulty increases. There's nothing to complain about here. If you die, you jump right back in from a nearby save spot, and it feels amazing when everything clicks. Weapons feel fun to use, and aiming is smooth and intuitive thanks in part to a slow motion bullet time. Abilities, although limited at first, pick up later in the game, allowing for some fun moments jetting around the environment. Weapons, weapon slots, and viscera sacks can all be upgraded up to 4 times by the blacksmith and a merchant in the game's main village, with options like more ammo and easier reload. Both weapons and skills reload with back and front flips on your bike, and also refresh upon entering a new area or zone. Currency comes in the form of viscera carried in sacks, which are lost at the point of death. Die enough times and you permanently lose your oldest sack. Sacks are retrieved either by picking up or shooting the sack upon return to where you died. You can also shoot enemies multiple times before they hit the ground to multiply the amount of viscera earned. Maps are purchased from Renato, a mysterious figure that appears throughout the world. There's a light cooking component to Laika for stat boosts, such as increased resources gained, extra viscera earned, or increased magnet range, allowing you to pick up viscera or resources from further away. You start the game with a blank book of recipes which you learn by experimenting with ingredients obtained either by purchase, gathering in the world, or by shooting vending machines in dungeons and other areas. Blueprints for new weapons can also be found locked in chests in various zones, sometimes requiring an extra ability to reach. On top of story-related quests, the game does have side quests, most of which require fetching something for someone, with the rare request of killing some enemies, or even a quest tasking you with deliberately dying. There's a blackjack minigame played for viscera, which, being true to gambling, you tend to lose more than you win. Old world rundown gas stations are the game's shops, selling quest items, resources for cooking, crafting, and cassettes. There's also a roving merchant that sells key items and usually appears next to fast travel spots, large totems made of bone where you can also cook and save your game. Bosses boast design that makes them all feel unique from one another and smartly incorporates character abilities and player skill. The boss enemies aren't necessarily difficult and their levels are fairly short. However, one hit results in death, putting you right back at the beginning of the fight again, which might be annoying for some. After the first few bosses, a truck that tries to ram you, and a centipede-like creature with mounted soldiers, it seems possible to tackle the remaining bosses in any order. However, weapon and character upgrades may be required to make figuring out a strategy and the fight itself easier. Music is composed by the wonderfully talented artist Bea and found throughout the game in the form of cassettes. Her music and vocals have a very earthy, slightly breathy quality to them. When you only have a few tapes to start, it can get a bit repetitive. The game does have a menu option of stopping tapes from playing, and on occasion does seem to have subtle ambient music. Otherwise, it is nice to ride around with nothing but the sound of Laika's bike. Also, sound effects are crisp and easy to make out. Guns reloading, the pop of nitro from the bike, bird squawks, and shooting sound authentic and really help immerse you in the feeling that you are trying to get by in a complete wasteland. Some thoughts to note on the way out. Tutorials tend to pop up often and are clumped together at the beginning of the game, but it's not too overwhelming. Sometimes action and characters can be difficult to see on screen due to camera effects, like the screen saturated with blood during larger fights with a lot of enemies, or reloading your abilities even on larger screens. Zones are somewhat small, and there's not a lot of backtracking or reasons for repeat visits to previous areas outside of farming resources. On PS5, there's also a trophy bug for collecting all weapons, which instead unlocks another trophy for a combo. At the time of review, this seems to have been patched in some regions but not others. Where patched, the trophy should pop with a completed save file. The game did crash for me after the first boss battle, happening once out of the 2 times it was fought during playthrough for review, and once when first playing the game prior to review. There's no voice acting in the game. The game instead uses text boxes, which better feels like it fits the game's themes of loneliness and isolation. Sometimes flavor text or quest-specific dialogue will appear when riding your bike, which could be distracting for some, but this is very minor. All that said, Laika is a beautiful game even with themes that tend more towards a life of harsh realities, and is 100% a game worthy of picking up. If you like my review for Laika, Age Through Blood, please consider hitting like and subscribe. Keep an eye out for future content, and thanks for watching.